Hey, how's it going out there, folks? Thank you very much for dropping by the channel. As always, there's nothing I appreciate more than somebody watching my content. And if you're doing that for the very first time, thank you very much. And if you're doing that for the 550th time, super appreciate it. Thanks for dropping by. And today what we're looking at is an Air Force One, and I just straight off the bat, especially for my regular viewers, just so you know, I don't have a sponsorship with Nike or Air Force One, and I don't have a vested interest in this shoe. I'm saying that because in the last 2 weeks, I think I must have looked at 5 or 6 different Air Force Ones, and that's just the way they're dropping. We had the Puerto Ricos, which is a beautiful shoe, and there's some controversy about that we might get back to in the rest of this video. We had the Seouls, it wasn't Seoul, actually, it was South Korea, capital city of South Korea, Seoul, but the South Koreas. We had the women's reveal, and today's shoe is also a women's shoe, so a little bit of a tie-up there. And we also had the home and away pack, and then here we are today with a 5th one to add to that collection. It's a funky little shoe, and I'm looking forward to going through it and bringing you the details on it. So what we'll do is we'll talk a little bit about those shoes that have dropped recently and Air Force Ones, and where this shoe fits in with the rest of the Air Force Ones that are dropping in this season. And then we'll look at the close-up details that make this one of the finest shoes to come out of the Air Force One women's line in recent times. So without further ado, let's get into this Nike Air Force One Perspective. This is the Tokyo About 23 Sneaker Channel, Tokyo About 23 Sneaker Channel des.毎日アップするので、毎日見てください. Every single day from Tokyo, Japan, I bring you content about upcoming sneaker releases, sneaker news, and sneaker reviews. And today we're looking at the Nike Air Force One Perspective. And I took a while to sort of work out how to pronounce this, because P and an H together to me would be Perspective, like phone or something like that, phosphor or something like that. But then that bracket in there, which makes it Perspective, Perspective. I think you're meant to say perspective somehow, but it's a play on words, to make this shoe, because it is a women's shoe, and it's that her in there adds that little bit of sort of femininity to this shoe. I do always say when I talk about women's shoes that I don't really appreciate women's shoes as a title. I prefer all shoes to be available for everybody. So if some guy wants to rock a shoe in this colorway, why shouldn't they? Or in these materials, why shouldn't they? But equally, you shouldn't call a particular Jordan sneaker a men's sneaker if women want to rock it as well. So I'd prefer it if the brands just went ahead and named the shoes and put them out in full-size runs, and let the people out there decide which ones they want to wear, and don't without sort of stigmatizing it a little bit with women's. But that's what they do, and maybe those times will change sometime in the future. But for me, I like to say that when I talk about the women's shoes. And today, like I said, we're looking at this Air Force One. There's a lot to take in on it. And I was saying about those Puerto Ricos earlier, bit of controversy on that one, because hopefully I'll be able to zoom in on the tongue here. And apparently the flag on the tongue on those guys is upside down. And a guy on the video I did, the South Koreas, he put a comment down below to say that the Puerto Rico drop has been cancelled because that flag is upside down. And a guy on the Puerto Rico video dropped a comment that said the upside down flag represents something revolutionary, I think it was that he said in there. So maybe those two comments kind of tie together to explain why they're talking about cancelling that shoe, or have actually cancelled that shoe. The guy on the South Korea video was saying that he just thought it was like wearer's perspective that the flag was upside down. I'm looking at it this way, not upside down to me. You're looking at it that way, it is upside down to you. So, but that's, I don't know, why Nike made that decision, and whether it does have anything to do with the upside down flag or not. But just interesting that, we're getting a lot of Air Force Ones right now, and a lot in that sort of classic silhouette. They're not playing with the actual structure of the Air Force One as much as they have done in the last sort of year or so. And you've got the classic silhouette, and what they're playing with is the materials that go on it, or the colors that go on it, but the actual structure of the shoe is the same as it has been for 38 years. So, and that today is what we're going to look at as well, as a very structurally sound Air Force One shoe that has really interesting materials and details on it. So without further ado, let's get into that part of the video and look at this shoe. Whole large shoe into small little details is the way that we're going to do this. First things first, looking at that upper, made of suede, and it looks like a velvety suede. I'm pretty sure that it is suede and it's not velvet, although there have been some places that have been describing it as like a velvety purple or something like that. But the actual material, I'm pretty confident in saying, is suede, and it runs front to back the full length of the shoe, except for the places where the branding is slapped on top of that, and we'll get to that in a minute. But you can see from these pictures here that it just is a really rich, buttery material and a very, very clean, beautiful material to make a sneaker out of. So a big plus on there. I'm trying to remember what they called these. It's something about, is it violet? I think they call it like violet star is the colorway for these guys. So I'm going to go with violet on that upper suede there, which is important because when you get into the outsole, now I don't have a picture of the actual outsoles, but what I do have is a look from the side so you can see that outsole on there. And it seems like it's semi-translucent. It's not quite as pop-in powerful translucent as yesterday's, was it yesterday's? South Korea ones who had a really clean translucent sole on it. It seems to be a bit deeper, a bit less translucent than the translucent you might see on some shoes. And I'm going with the color lilac for those guys. So you've got that, what did I say up on top? Violet suede on top and then that lilac translucent outsole to go with that. And it's a really nice combination, really, really clean shoe. But then there are some places that yes work, and on the side of those places I think don't work. So let's get into those things before we get into one really neat little feature which ties up to Beyonce. And what I'm talking about, those three features in particular, is the internal swoosh, because there's actually three swooshes on these guys, but the internal segment of that swoosh is a silver mirror, and that's most obvious on this picture here, and you can really see that pop-in silver mirror on there. And that's actually mirrored up on the tongues, but I can't get a clean straight shot at that tongue branding on there, but you can see from the angle that they've gone with that same mirror effect up there. And then if you go around to the back, you've got like a head-on straight up view of the heel of these guys, and again that mirror there. Now before we get into the bits that I'm not so sure about, and a bit sort of about that heel there, there's one thing on it. If you look at it, you've got that standard sort of Air Force One branding unit at the top, and then the way the upper comes around on the lateral and the medial sides are joined together by a strip of material. That strip of material on there looks a little bit lazy to me. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see it on the green screen here, but you'll see that dropping down below the branding, there's a sort of long rectangular strip that ties the lateral and the medial sides of the shoe together. It just looks a little bit lazy to me. I might be wrong, or it might be the picture. It might be in that rich suede material that the rest of the upper's in, but it seems like it's a bit grey rather than, did I say violet? A bit grey rather than violet, and it doesn't seem to be in that suede, like luxury suede material that the rest of the upper is in. So on that. But the three mirror points, very cool. And I think if they'd left it at that, brilliant, we're done, ship the shoe out, everybody's going to go mad for it. But for some reason they decided to put in some extra colour on that. In particular, we're talking about yellow, and then there's a second colour as well around the swoosh. So we'll go back to the swoosh first, and what you'll see around that is that you've got that second and third layer that borders around the outside of the swoosh. So the mirrored swoosh, like I said, is the first of three, and then behind that you've got two more, slightly larger both times to give a double border effect. And I don't like the colours of them. I don't think they go with this colourway, especially this violet suede upper. I don't think it quite works. And then if we go back to the heel, I think again you'll see that combination on the mirror there with that additional little bit of colour there, it doesn't quite match the sort of narrative of the rest of the shoe. So I'm a bit sort of like on those colours. I think if they dropped them off and just gone with a mirrored swoosh and mirrored branding up in the tongues and the heel, it would have been a real fire shoe. But I think those extra sort of pastel colours drop it down a little bit for me. But what brings it back up a little bit for me is that perspective hang tag on the side. Now, as soon as I saw this, the first thing I thought was Beyonce Ultra Boost hang tag. So hopefully I'll be able to show you the Beyonce hang tag that went on the back, actually, I think it was, of the Ultra Boost, which dropped earlier this year. I think it was earlier this year. I don't think it was late last year. I think it was earlier this year. But it's a big long thing, quite a large hang tag. Now, hang tags usually don't hang below the bottom of the shoe because they get dirty if you do that. But in the case of these ones and those Beyonce ones, very, very long, and it hangs very, very much beyond the bottom half of the shoe. And I'm pretty sure, if I remember rightly, it says perspective on there as well to add another little bit of that sort of narrative and that story of the shoe. Now, I've done something I should never do. And I never do this in the videos, and I talk about it, and I say I never do it. And I've only done it today because I forgot. Okay, this wasn't a deliberate ploy to get people to watch for longer, because I just realised that I was thinking while I was talking, is there anything left for me to say? And there's one thing left to say, and it's what the title of this video is. And I always say that I answer the questions or the title of the video as early as possible in the video, and here I am, almost finished my video, and I haven't answered that question. And the question was, what is the one thing, the unbelievable one thing that I missed on these Air Force One Perspective. See, I'm mixing up that P and H. And it's not actually the Air Force One, it's these right here. Hopefully what you can see there is a pack. The Air Force One on one side and the Air Jordan 1s on the other. And they're both that perspective sort of theme. But I didn't see the Air Jordan 1s at all. Apparently they've already dropped. They definitely didn't drop in Japan, I can guarantee you that. Or at least they didn't drop on like sneakers or any regular sort of broad run. Maybe in select retail stores and I didn't know about it. And I didn't see it on anything overseas either. So unless I'm totally mistaken, the other half of this pack actually hasn't dropped yet, because that's a shoe I'd really like to get into and talk to you guys about. So I was really surprised to see that these guys are actually part of a pack, and there's a second Air Jordan 1 shoe out there that goes with it, and I want to get into that one as well, as much as I've got into this Air Force One today. And it absolutely shocked me that I didn't know that when I was written. Like, I saw the shoe, said, you know what, the Air Force One, I'm going to do that video. Started researching it, and actually the sites I was looking at in overseas only had the one. It was one particular site only had the Air Force One, but then I went to another, now that I think about it, English speaking site, and they had both, and I was like, whoa, what's that? Where did that come from? How have I not seen that before? That's already dropped. So I was a bit surprised in that. I don't know if it has or hasn't already dropped. I know it hasn't dropped in Japan, but you know, being here in Japan, it's hard to talk for the rest of the world and for what's going on in Europe and America and stuff like that. So your comments, please, to let me know what's going on with the Air Jordan 1 perspective. But I'm pretty sure about these Air Force Ones perspectives. I think I'm right in saying they're dropping on June the 19th. I think originally they had a different drop date, and then they said June 20th, and then they brought that forward one day to June the 19th. And we've talked in other videos about the mess that's happening to drop dates because of both coronavirus and the Olympics getting shifted back one year, so I won't get into that today. But here we are, another shoe dropping in a strange way with a different date that we were expecting. So that's my take. I think I've covered everything now. Hopefully I don't remember something else I should have said earlier in this video. But that's my take on these, you know, perspective sneakers. I think they're very cool. I think it's a beautiful material to make the upper out of, a great colour. Just a couple of hits of branding or detailing colour on there that I think they went a little too far with. Otherwise, it's a great looking shoe, and if you're planning to get your hands on them, I think you'll be very, very happy with what you get. Right, it's time for me to get off. It is almost midnight on Thursday night, and this is Friday's video, so got to get it together and get it ready for you guys to see tomorrow. So I'm going to chip off. Thank you guys very much for checking out the content, but as I do this every single day, that means that you are guaranteed to see me tomorrow.